I think you can tell at Civitella immediately when you enter. Even though maybe it looks like a formal place, you have a sense of love that goes into everything. Because so many of us are insecure, are at a turning point in our work where we don't know which way to go. But we do need to feel that what we're doing is actually worth it.
I really believe in what is often referred to as genius loci, the spirit of a place and the spirit of an old place like the castle that for 500 years has held people. It protects, it nourishes. Our foundation is just over 25 years old. We've welcomed approximately 1,000 fellows and directors' guests from all over the world. Our fellows represent 3 essential fields: visual arts, musical composition, and writing.
I think that one of the most important achievements of Civitella is to cross the borders. So the borders of age, the borders of race, the borders of geography or culture.
I'm a writer, primarily non-fiction travel writing. Looking for Transwonderland was a book based around my travels around Nigeria. That's me in orange, riding on this motorcycle. I was born in Nigeria, but I grew up in England. My father, he was a political activist. He fought against human rights abuses and environmental damage in the Niger Delta, where we're from. And as a result of his campaign, he was killed in 1995. And so that really strained my relationship with Nigeria. Maybe 13 years after he died, I decided, actually, I want to go back and engage with this country, but as a kind of tourist, as an independent traveler.
I arrived here to do some work on a novel. The novel is 3 characters, 3 different generations in conversation with each other. But I realized as I arrived that one of the characters doesn't work. That character had to be completely reinvented. I think that many people think that, inspiration comes, the light shines through the window, and you begin to write. But in fact, most of the true work of writing is in revision. Revision is not only about seeing into your art and making it better, it's also about seeing into yourself and becoming a better version of you. Civitella allows the space to make that happen.
I have been finishing the final draft of my novel, which is a sequel to Less, and it is due in 10 days. And I've done it. I am certain I finished the novel because I had this quiet and focus. I needed to be imprisoned a little bit, especially for me, for a novel where I need to reach a point where I have the entire book in my head and I can make decisions about the whole book and not just a sentence. It's impossible to do unless you have this long period of isolation.
In Civitella, I finished the electronics of a piece of mine called Fire in English, for cello and live electronics. Then it was premiered on the 2nd of September in Bonn at the Beethoven Fest by the cellist Isang Enders.
I'm a painter, a printmaker, and an artist who makes public work. I love the paintings that are in the churches around here. In Urbino, there is a Madonna that has a beautiful Jesus baby that has a coral necklace on it. And I was immediately drawn to that because growing up in a Puerto Rican Mexican family, the children often, as babies, are given pieces of coral to wear as a protection from evil spirits. I don't know how to put this, but something about medieval and late medieval art speaks to me directly. And it's not culturally, the line where I come from. It's deeper. Somehow it speaks to me, and it has to do with spirituality. It has to do with presence. I'm playing with techniques, I'm playing with materials and images from specifically this place.
I'm Kayo Chingoni. I write poetry. This is called Kumukanda. Since I haven't danced among my fellow initiates, following a looped procession from woods at the edge of a village, Tata's people would think me unfinished, a child who never sloughed off the childish estate to cross the river boys of our tribe must cross in order to die and come back grown. I was raised in a strange land by small increments. When I bathed my mother the days she was too weak. When Auntie broke the news and I chose a yellow suit and white shoes to dress my mother's body at the graveside. When the man I almost grew to call Dad, though we both needed a hug, shook my hand.
We rely on a nomination system, that it's how we can ensure inclusion and diversity. And this is an international search, so we spend a lot of time as a staff researching galleries, publishers, music venue directors, curators, all kinds of professionals who can put us in touch with the best talent in their countries.
One of the greatest things that happens at Civitella are the conversations that happen spontaneously between artists. There's one day that I just fell into conversation with Andrew Greer, who is a fiction writer, winner of the Pulitzer Prize. And the conversation unexpectedly went real deep, real quick. And the next thing I knew, we were both in tears, and I had my first paragraph for my next project.
Artist residencies are so essential to artists, not just because it's a place to work on your art, but it takes us away from the world, which is why it's 6 weeks here and not 4. They start to become more themselves, their best self, and hopefully their best artistic self. And there's nothing else like it. There is no way that staying in your mom's guest room for a month and her cooking meals is the same thing as an artist residency.
Every summer, my parents would take us back to Nigeria for the holidays, and they would say, we're going home. But for me, I considered England to be home. But I find that really what I need is peace of mind and to feel anchored somewhere. And in the 6 weeks that I've been here in Civitella, this really has become home. I get my bike, I ride, I cycle down through the sunflower fields to Umbria. Within a week of being here, I fell into this rhythm that's really helped my writing.
I've been director here at Civitella for 14 years. I fell in love with our founder's vision with the castle, its idiosyncrasies, the grounds. I am proud of several things we've achieved in these years, and I think the first is the staff. And this goes from office work right through to the gardeners.
Keeping things simple, keeping things as they are. I'm very proud to be from this area, from Umbria. I'm actually from a tiny neighbor of Perugia along the Tiber River. The food philosophy here at Civitella is really the food philosophy of Umbria. Now in Italy, we use this word to speak about organic food, which is kilometer zero, so no kilometers.
I'm from Umbertide, and I've lived here for all my life. This means that I'm kind of ambassador to town. I can say that I know almost every secret of this place. Being from Umbertide also means that I can help fellows with a special project. And then we had fellows that work with craftsmen, with farmers. I really like the idea of this collaboration between arts and the industries here because it's something new for them.
Civitella has opened the gates to the local community. People can access to the castle, can come to our fellows' presentations, and they normally happen twice a week. We have seen over the years many Italians coming to our presentation, especially young people. And this is something we love.
The library collection is so strong now, especially in art history, poetry, literature. Mark Strand was a frequent director's guest to Civitella, and upon his death, we inherited his full library. This has been added to now by the Pepper family. This would be Beverly Pepper and her husband, Curtis Bill Pepper, who was a journalist. This is probably one of the most important collections of English language poetry and of English translations of worldwide poetry in all of Italy. Umbria is rich with beautiful art and hill towns and amazing landscape, amazing people, food traditions, stunning works of art. And we feel that by taking our fellows out to partake of this at least once a week, that they're in touch with what Umbria is all about, as this green heart of Italy. In honor of our 25th anniversary, we did a survey of all of our fellows. One of the remarkable things that we found out is that the excursions are one of the highest and most fondly remembered aspects of the residency.
I am sketching also a piece for two bassoons and electronics. I got some inspiration from the work of Piero della Francesca for this piece. In Madonna del Parto, there are the two angels, one on the left and exactly its mirror on the right. So one has a green dress and red wings, the other has green wings and red dress. The two musicians playing the bassoon will be seated like the angels in a symmetry. And the Madonna itself will be represented by the music and also by the electronics. This brings a kind of mystery, which is also very inspiring for a musical composition, of how to put elements on one hand really functioning very well together, but still as though something is not explained, as though a mystery is there.
One day we went to a church in Urbino, and I saw a fresco from 500 years ago that blew me away. There were two men, one of whom was holding a falcon, and our guide told us that this is symbolic of a gay couple. And it was like I knew those guys. They spoke to me, and I knew that the life that I live as a queer person is part of the story that's been going on for hundreds and thousands of years. And it just lifted me up and told me that the stories that I'm telling are stories that are essential to the human condition.
I think, especially in these frescoes we saw in Urbino, there was a storytelling level that was beyond anything Hollywood could come up with. I mean, it's beyond superheroes. So the creativity of storytelling that we're encountering is really beautiful. But there's also a truth to all of it. There's something very truthful.
For me, art is one of the most important endeavors in human history. Quite often people belittle art. They think it's something that's indulgent. Civilizations come and go. But when they die, what's always left is architecture and art. And that art tells you something about the values of that community. So when we see these amazing Pieros, you have a visual representation of how society thought in those days. And so it's the artists of the day who have that task, that responsibility of transmitting people of the future information about the age that they lived in. And I think, all of us as creatives, whether we're writers, composers, visual artists, we're all doing the same thing. And for me, as a travel writer, I want to document the world as it is today in a particular place, in a particular time.
We don't know where inspiration comes from. We know that as artists, we have to pay attention. We know that as artists, we need to be open to surprises. I really believe that inspiration is an accidental byproduct of living a life that's full of curiosity. And this is also where our excursions play into the curated experience of being at Civitella, is taking people to places that they're unfamiliar with and finding this byproduct of inspiration.